you're the woman who first signed the Wiggles with a record deal. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel very proud, of course, and I'm very pleased for them. Signing someone to a record label is a major commitment, and it has to be done from either your gut feeling or your heart. And it doesn't matter how many people you do sign over a period of time, only a few of them are going to make it. But with the Wiggles, they were fantastic from the outset, and with their talent, the music, and the backing of the ABC, it all came together, and I was delighted last week to see them win yet another ARIA award. I've actually just come back from an overseas holiday, and I was on a yacht on the Mediterranean, as you are, and at night we were all talking about, at dinner, we were with 6 other people from all different parts of the world, and we were talking about things that had happened in our life, and I was sort of saying, well, my major achievement is probably signing the Wiggles. And I was amazed that everybody knew who the Wiggles were, and I was even more amazed when the American in the party said, but surely they're American.
What was your role at the ABC at the time?
I was head of ABC Music, which is essentially ABC's record company in their commercial arm.
So tell us the story about how it all happened.
Well, I'd spent 25 years working at Festival Records, and I'd only been 1 week at the ABC when I had a call from Jeremy Fabini saying that he was now managing a kids band, and it featured 2 of the guys who had formerly been in the Cockroaches, who I'd been associated with at my time at Festival. And in those days, as I remember, Anthony was the one who sang, and I think in those days too, Anthony probably did a lot of the singing because he had the most experience of anybody in the group at that time. So I invited Jeremy in for a meeting. He played the material and I thought it was great. So I got the boys in so I could just see what their commitment to the project was and what their vision for it was. And we had a meeting in the ABC boardroom, and I looked around at all their faces and thought, they're all very handsome and they're gorgeous, so I'm sure mothers of 3-year-olds are going to love the Wiggles as much as the 3-year-olds themselves. At the time, children's entertainers were basically solo acts performing for children, and the ABC had the best of them, and they were very successful. But I really felt it was probably time for something different, and this was what the boys, the Wiggles, presented us with.
Wiggly party. Wiggly party.
When I'd had my meeting with their manager, I had to do a note to our legal department to draw up a contract, and I remember it was all of 1 page. I can assure you it wouldn't be now, and it said that if we were lucky enough to sell 5,000 copies, we could pick up the rights for 2 more albums. And I have to say, it took us a while to sell the 5,000, but once we got past that mark, it was fantastic.
This is a story of a not-so-scary dinosaur named Dorothy.
We pulled out all resources, went down to Darling Harbour. That train that goes round and round taking tourists, we commandeered that. Dorothy went running through the crowds, and I think the clip cost us all of about $500.
I was looking out my window late the other night. She was sitting in the garden and gave me such a fright. Eating all Mum's roses there in the moonlight. It was Dorothy the dinosaur. I knew that if Mum saw her, she'd never let her stay. A dinosaur as big as that needs feeding night and day. I'd have to find a place where I could hide her away. Dorothy the dinosaur.
So the $500 clip did it for them really in those days. And now when you see the quality of what they do, obviously there's no comparison.
What was it about the guys that gave you the confidence that they had the potential to be a success story?
Well, apart from their good looks, they were keen. They'd identified their audience. When we saw them perform in front of an audience, they connected, and they had the music. And so I guess you put all that together, and that's the recipe for success.
What were they like back then?
Just like they are now. They're gorgeous boys, and I don't think they've changed at all. I do see them at industry functions and awards nights and so forth, and they seem to me to be completely unchanged. But I have to tell you, some of their early shows were very daggy.
Did you ever think that they'd be as successful as they are?
I could see the potential, but I don't think they would have ever been as successful as they are now if they hadn't surrounded themselves with really good people. That went right across the board in every single solitary thing they did. They had management, they had great distribution, great records, they had a great team at the office, choreography, everything they did right.
Why do you feel they were able to engage children so much and become as successful as they have?
I think because they've never lost sight of their audience, that 3-year-old down the front there. I think that they've always had enormous faith in themselves. I think they love what they do. They make great music. They love children. They redirected everything back into the company, and they never went out with the same show twice. They improved at every opportunity, and you only have to go to one of their Christmas spectaculars to see how high they've set the bar for other imitators to come along.
Try this one, everyone, a little bit different. Ah, you're doing it, Seamus, that's it. And now we sing Who It's Captain Better song.
What have the highlights been for you of the Wiggles' career?
I guess early highlights would be, that point at which you know something's working. The fact that in the early days the boys didn't have a lot of live work, and once they started to get more and more live work in clubs and so forth, the wheel starts turning, and it's an amazing thing to watch in anyone's career when something happens and you get traction. And I think that's when everybody digs in and knows, with a little bit more effort, this is going to sort of really build. And that was back in the very early days. Once they started to become successful, their first aria was a fantastic achievement. Their gold and platinum albums, which from my first Conservative 5000 were phenomenal successes.
Do you think the children's entertainment business will ever see a group as big as the Wiggles?
No, I don't. I think that the Wiggles now are miles apart from. I don't think there's any way to compare anyone with them, but quite frankly I think what will happen is that as they came along as a band in a time when there are normally only solo performers, something else will come along, but it will be totally different, but the Wiggles will always rule.
What is your favourite Wiggles song and why?
Well, I guess the song that stands out most to me from those very early days was Rockabye Bear, which seemed to connect enormously with children and the whole audience, as it does probably still these days.
Thank you, Meryl. You've done many wonderful things in the music industry, but to us, you'll always be the one who signed the Wiggles.
That's right.